Hi there. I think that's us got everybody now. If everyone can hear me okay, just give me a wee thumbs up in the chat so that we know. Thank you, Angela. Brilliant, thank you. So welcome, hi. Hi everybody, it's very strange doing it on Teams. There are three of us here today. So there's myself, Laura Gallagher. We've got Jill Cummins as well. I can't see everybody. There she is on my top left. And we've got Angela Anderson. So we're three of the educational visitors in the region. And today's basically just about sharing information about resource provision as a kind of starter for 10. Kind of giving you the bare information at the moment, and then we can progress on from there. At any point, if you have any questions, we'll stop at different parts throughout of it. You could also use the chat function as well. And you might find that even though I'm speaking, Angela or Jill will pop in and have something to say, and vice versa as well. So welcome and thank you for giving us the time this afternoon to come along to this. Hopefully you'll find it useful. Can we switch slides, Angela? Is that okay?
Just before we go on, just to point out to everyone, we're recording the session. So we will take questions at certain points. If you're not really wanting to be heard or anything like that, that's absolutely fine. Just pop it in the chat instead, whichever way you want to do it, but just so that you know.
We've still got a couple of people coming in as well. Okay, so as most of you might be aware, maybe not, resource provision is something that the Educational Visitor Service help with. This year, a lot of the information that we're going to be sharing is for you to be able to follow and for us to be here to be able to facilitate and help and guide you along the way. Oh, there's still more people coming in, sorry. So this is really the first step of informing you about resource provision. So the aims of this session is basically just to clarify what resource provision is, what, where, who, why, how, when. Miss Hammer, sorry, Angela, I can't hear anything, but I've just joined. I don't know if that's something we can look at your side. It is being recorded, so it's maybe something we could forward on to her. Yeah. Thank you, Angela. Can you pop the rest of that slide up? Thank you. So yeah, we're here to help clarify what it actually is, to discuss and talk about and inform the process of applying for an RP place, your role in it, and to be able to answer any questions that you might have. So first of all, what is resourced provision? You might see it being referred to as RP, you might see it being referred to as RPP, but essentially resource provision is a term that we use for specialist education settings within Dumfries and Galloway, but we might know it better as learning centres, children's centres, or a specific name like the Queensbury unit, which is based within Georgetown. Someone can't see the slides. It's always a joy, isn't it, teams? Can we move on? Thank you. So just to highlight, first of all, that the RP estates, it's currently changing, it's in review. So what you see today might change ever so slightly going forward. But basically, its resource provision is needs-based. It provides moderate or complex needs from physical disabilities or arising from learning disabilities. It provides access to specialist or small group teaching for a high proportion of the school day. It meets individualised learning and healthcare needs as well. There may be adaptations needed or specialist features needed. Like you can see there in the list, hydrotherapy pool, sensory room, hoist. So dependent on the need of the child will be dependent on the resource provision given. It also meets individualised learning needs, and it might look like an additional classroom. It might not, but it may look like 1, 2, 3 additional classrooms or just one. It might also offer multisensory experiences and additional features to support life skills and learning. It could also be blended. You may be in it all of the time, you might be in it part of the time, but that's an arrangement between the resource provision and the needs of the child. And it's an arrangement when pupils are enrolled in their P1 mainstream class, but have access to a learning centre. So if you at the moment have children that you are thinking may need resource provision, it's really thinking about that individual child and their individual needs and what that might look like in a P1 mainstream class. If you think that that is something that they would cope with, or if you are starting to think, nope, this is something that we need to think about for that specific child to meet their needs. It might not be that they're in the learning centre full time, but it might be that they do need it for aspects of their day. Can we move on? Thank you. This is, geography is not my strong point, but this is a map of the region just to give you an idea of where the learning centres are based throughout Dumfries and Galloway. The S&C is a severe and complex, and then moderate. So you can see that we have got a severe and complex children's centre in Belmont and Stranraer. We've also got the Queensbury unit within Georgetown, so within Dumfries, and we've got Lockerbie Learning Centre, severe and complex as well. The rest are moderate learning centres based throughout the region. Girls, is there anything you want to add to that? No? No. So how do learning centres work? First of all, they are all completely different, and what the needs are in one learning centre will be completely different to what they are in the other. Each individual learning centre does have its own staffing model, however. It will include a principal teacher, teaching and non-teaching staff, and they will all have specialist knowledge, experience and training working within there. Within the learning centres, you have visiting specialists and allied health professionals, so they come in and provide support for individual needs. That could be OT, it could be speech and language, it could be various specialists. As I said at the start, each learning centre is completely different. The resources, the features, the layout, the way it works, the day-to-day, each of them are completely different. But every single one of them provide an individualised learning environment for pupils within a classroom style setting. Again, that classroom might look different from one to the other, no different to what it would be within a school. Each classroom would be different, but the setup of it would be to meet the needs of the children within it. Within the learning centre, there's really close links between them and the mainstream classes to ensure inclusion of the children. So that's where I briefly touched on earlier that they can move fluidly between the settings. So it might be that they are in the learning centre or they start in the learning centre full time, but you find as time goes on, they start to be able to access mainstream classes for specific times of the day to ensure inclusivity. The time a child spends in a learning centre is completely dictated by their needs. It's not a diagnosis. And as I've said, it can be short term, it can be temporary, it can be longer term, it could be full days, it could be shorter days. So it really is completely different. What you will see in one is not what you will see in them all. So this is a little video of Belmont Children's Centre, and I have to say we reached out at this just before summer asking the learning centres if any of them would like to film a short video that we could share, just so that you had a little bit of inside knowledge. It's not everyone's got time to see inside them, and we had a huge uptake. I'm looking at Angela here because I'm trying to remember, but I think we had a huge uptake and they were all so forthcoming and wanting to, happy to be filmed so that people could see not just professionals, but also parents inside them. But we have Belmont Children's Centre, which is based down in Stranraer. There we go. So some of you may or may not have been in other learning centres, so you might be looking at that thinking, oh yeah, that's completely different from what I've seen elsewhere, but that's Belmont, so if anyone is wanting to go down, they're more than happy for a visit. So thinking about start of term, now we're talking about resource provision for August intake next year, but that's really a system that needs to start now. So thinking about the children in your nursery, in your setting that might need resource provision next August. So any child in need of individualised learning in a teaching environment whose needs you do not think cannot be fully met within mainstream. That is who the children, the intake that we're talking about at the moment. So for example, children with additional support needs that might come from learning or physical disabilities, which is limiting them to everyday tasks. Children who are maybe already identified as stage 4 in stages of intervention, or children that you're all thinking could be, and children whose moderate learning difficulties create significant challenge in meeting milestones, no matter what support or differentiation is given. They might struggle. That might be through language, concentration, social skills, the basic concepts and skills and executive function that's listed there. So these are the main examples of what we are thinking about. And you might be sitting thinking, yeah, I've got a few children in mind already who might need. So just bear in mind that it doesn't mean if you're applying for resource provision, it doesn't mean that they will be in there full time. Next, we have
just before, sorry, Laura. No, it's okay. No, just when you've said about the identified at stage 4, only children who are at stage 4 of stages of intervention will be accepted into learning centres. So it may not be that you see them as that within nursery because it's so play-based, but going into primary 1, you might think, they would be stage 4 in a mainstream. Absolutely, then you can put them forward, but you can't put them forward if they're not. It's just to bring that up.
Yeah, to clarify that, So our next slide is a parent. And again, this is something that we felt was pivotal for both professionals and parents going forward. Because it's daunting. It's daunting for you as a professional to potentially be having to have those conversations with parents, which might not necessarily be positive or might come as a bit of a shock initially. And the same from the parental point of view. So this is Nicola. Nicola had a lovely experience with her little boy Archie, and she was more than happy to talk about it. So we had a short interview with Nicola, asking her some questions, and she's going to speak through what her experience was. Thank you, Angela. So yeah, I think you'll agree that's really helpful, and I think Angela will correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm right in saying that that's there for any parents to access as well if you are about to have maybe some difficult conversations and their reassurance or support is needed.
Yeah, we'll put this PowerPoint with the videos embedded onto Glow, so you'll be able to find it in the professional learning folder within our EV Glow. It'll also be available other ways in the future, but we're not there yet. Hopefully in the next few weeks you'll get more ways that it'll be available, but it'll be available on Glow. I'll put it on there after we've met today.
Okay, over to you, Jill, I think.
Thanks, Laura. That was really good. Has anybody got anything at this point that they want to ask? You can always pop it on the chat. So Laura's given you the background. Now, this is the context. Prior to any placing requests at a learning centre, each child will have been offered support, often by a multidisciplinary team. This is what makes them a stage 4 in the stages of intervention, with input, assessment and planning. There will be in partnership agreement to the identified need through this child's plan process or IEP, Individualised Educational Programme. Applications are referred to a panel known as the Resource Provision Panel, or RPP, who are selected from senior management within the Education Skills and Community Wellbeing Directorate. And ultimately, however, it is the parents or carers who consent to an application being made to the RPP and subsequently whether to accept the offer of a place. So it is a parental choice, and some of you may have experienced where parents have said, no, that's not what I want. And we can't say, no, you're not going to mainstream. But unfortunately, sometimes that goes a bit pear-shaped. So you're being asked to have these conversations with parents. Can we move on, Angela? From September 25, not long, start opening well, you can start now actually, or even before, if you could go back. Open the conversation with parents and carers to consider their destination options for P1. The sooner you can start this dialogue, the better. Obviously, you can't start it sooner than tomorrow now, but it's really important that parents are starting to think themselves, because not all parents will go for this right away. Who can do this? It can be the nursery managers or the key workers, anybody within your establishment who you feel has got an appropriately close relationship with the parents. Clarify parental preferences for P1 and base it on need, not diagnosis. So because a child has a diagnosis doesn't mean they wouldn't cope with additional support in primary 1. Parents, carers and professionals reach an agreement that resource provision is the best choice and an application is required. So it's not one person's decision. It's a team around the child. And the process, what is the process? Pre-application, parent, carer and nursery manager will open a discussion for those children needing an application for resource provision. Now, I think that you'll feel this is something that you've not had to do before, but you are in a very good place to start this conversation because you have got a relationship with these parents. Parental consent sought by early learning centre settings to allow children to be named and data collected. So we do need parental consent for for naming, and you need to collect that consent. Data will be collected via forms. EV service is available for training and virtual consultation, as ever. Any children discharged from the EV service still need to be re-referred by the nursery manager via the RFA, highlighting resource provision as a specific area of input. So if you want to refer back, it's not automatic. You have to redo the shortened referral. Nursery manager will seek consent from parents and carers prior to allowing a PT, which is a principal teacher, to complete an observation of their child in the setting. So that is the next step in the process. A principal teacher will be allocated to come and observe, but there must be parental permission. The nursery manager is responsible for gathering information and populating the resource provision application. Training and support will be provided by the EV service through the Professional Learning Directory. All children will be individually observed in their ELC setting by an EV and a principal teacher, but only once consent's been given. Parents or carers will be invited to input their comments to the application. There is a section for parents' comments. Principal teacher will submit comments with regard to the child and educational need. That is separate from the process that you're using or the paperwork you're using. Sorry. Nursery manager will submit the applications to a specific RPP mailbox. You'll get some more information at the end of this, and the application will then be submitted to the resource provision panel. After application, the panel will meet and determine the outcomes of all applications region-wide. And at this point, this is possibly why that parent felt there was a date that she'd been given for getting a confirmation of place, and then it went over that time, and it's because the resource provision panel is having to look at the number that they're having to place and where they can best go. So sometimes it takes a bit longer. The panel's decisions are made known to the parent, and then current and proposed settings, so the parent will know first. An appeal process exists for parents who are not satisfied with the outcome, and that's stated when they get their letter to confirm of where they're going to be placed. Parents, carers should enrol their child at their catchment school within the normal time frame. That's really important. So if you're in one place, but the child has been given or potentially going to be going to another place, which is not their catchment school, they have to be enrolled so that they're counted in. And the child's P1 school place will be updated centrally once a decision has been made. So they might be enrolled in a small primary because that's a catchment school. Next town or village is where they're going to be attending, but nobody needs to do anything about that. That paperwork is done centrally. Okay. The deadline for submissions of resource provision applications is the 12th of December 2025. So we have got a date for the deadline, so be thinking about it and potentially think about having those potentially difficult conversations with parents. Nursery manager submits the application by email, and there's a special email box for these requests. Has anybody got any answers? Any answers? Yes, please, answers. Any questions about that? When you get the video, we're flicking through it, we're talking through it. When you get the video or the the PowerPoint, this is all there. It'll all be there available for you. Okay, no questions?
Okay, we'll move on then.
Okay.
Thanks, Jill. So what we've got here, I know this is quite small, but there is a Word document that will be put into Glow as well, which it has this in the full size. So this is just a screenshot of it, so it's a bit smaller. But this gives you your specific tasks, and it tells you who is responsible for which tasks as well. So the first task, nursery managers will be asked for indicative numbers. So that was done before the summer holidays. So that was nursery managers' responsibility. Begin discussions about options with parents. August inset, so access training, so that's today. And then it goes on to September with exactly what we've said in the PowerPoint, but it tells you who's responsible for what. So nursery manager to continue the conversations. The EV service will send out a questionnaire and forms, which you will get very soon, which will identify actual names once you've got the permissions from the parents. And then you're to collect and submit the observation permission slips from parents as well, all in September. And then it breaks it down and it tells you, right, from term 2, October to December, what is expected. So there will be observations by EVs and PTs. That's our responsibility and the PT's responsibilities, not yourselves. We will contact you and you will be able to facilitate us to come in and do those. You will complete the application and submit by the 12th of December. So it's on this form as well. It tells you the exact date. And the comments, parent comments, PT and EV observations, we will upload our own parent comment. You'll upload as well by the 19th of December. So you've got slightly longer for those. Okay. Then the next part is January. So it's term 3. It tells you what to expect and who is responsible for what step in the process. You'll notice that there's not specific dates because there has been issues in the past, as Jill mentioned, where there's maybe been very high numbers of children being applications being sent in for, where they've maybe allocated a day and they've had to allocate maybe 2 more days for it because they've got so many, that sort of idea. So they don't want to put a specific date on it in case they can't get it done in the time frame they expect. Also last year they had to start looking at the whole estate, which again Laura mentioned right at the very start, and we had to actually open new learning centres because there was not enough space. So that all has to be taken into account, and that also has to be planned for and prepared before some letters can go out. So it may be that it's not going to be everybody at the same time, but the hope is that it will be around about the same time. The appeals process, again, nothing to do with us as a service or as EVs. It's all central, and it's the central management and the parents that will do that process. It's nothing to do with us, and it's nothing to do with nursery managers either or head teachers. It's up to parents to take that forward. You can obviously support parents with that if you need to, but we're not really involved in that process because we can't make any decisions. It also says about so March is when the appeal outcomes would be, and then it says the week of the 16th of March. So that's when you would then step in. That's your next step to share the relevant paperwork. Placements, and that's the nursery manager will be advised by the Learning Centre PT if they contact the parents or when they contact the parents to start transition. You shouldn't need to be chasing people to ask for that. They should give you that. And then April to June should be transition meetings and any other transitions. Laura, were you wanting to say anything?
No, was I supposed
No,
to?
no, just because your mic was off on again. I thought maybe you were
Oh,
going to speak.
sorry,
No, you're fine.
no.
So as I say, that is available on, it's a two-sided Word document, that timeline, and it's your timeline for you to follow, and it's hopefully very clear. If at any point you find that we've missed something, or you think, oh, it would have been useful to know that, let us know, because we can add it in for next time, because we can only go with what we're told. Okay, so what happens next? So that again is after the process has gone through, we'll consider the applications. We've kind of mentioned these things by going through that timeline with you. Decisions circulated, setting advised of decisions, and so on. Okay, and it's the receiving school's responsibility to actually take instigate transitions. But if you contact the receiving school to provide any contact information and support agencies, then that helps them to then set up transition meetings and things, because they then have all that information. Okay, so new information. So there's a sway and a leaflet for parents that's coming out soon about learning centres resourced provision. The sway will include the videos that we showed you today, but also will include more videos of learning centres, and another parent has answered questions. She's not been recorded, but the questions are answered in her words, so someone may read it, or we may just put a Word document on or something. And we will also be looking at the twilight opportunities that learning centres are going to offer, because that's not been the case for quite a while. And that is something that some learning centres will be offering, which is really exciting for you as nursery managers to go and visit learning centres to actually see the physical spaces. Again, especially in the sort of Dumfries area, we can't say you must apply for this specific learning centre, because it is not us that makes that decision. It's not yourselves, it's not the parents. It's about what does a learning centre look like in a general sense, so that we've got an idea. So how are the numbers in term 4 taken? What numbers? Is that from Seamus?
I was just replying to that. I wonder if
Oh,
it's the indicative, it's the email that we
Michelle,
sent out.
Michelle Hamer, do you want to clarify your question?
Sorry, yeah, it was about that, the first part.
Yeah, the term 4. So in term 4, you would have received an email from the EV service just for indicative numbers. No, not
before.
names or...
Yes, so yeah, term 4
Yeah.
before the summer, that was sent out in June.
Right, so what happens if I've missed that then?
It doesn't matter, you're getting a new one sent out now.
Oh, thank goodness. Sorry.
Because no, don't worry, because actually we discovered that nearly everybody missed it. We only got 41 responses. So we know
Right.
that was only about a third of the responses we thought we would get. So we know that a lot have missed it. So please don't worry about that. No, those numbers, that is going to be a rolling thing. It'll come out every June just to get a rough idea. But also in the September, you will get the forms asking you for specific names, and those numbers will be taken as well. And that is, even if you think, right, we're at the early stages, a parent may not go ahead. If you think there's a chance, put them down. We'd rather have them named and them not be applied for than not have them named.
Do we need to discuss that with parents beforehand, or can we just put down who we think?
For that data information, so that if I go back to here, so in the September there, so the second bullet point, if I just show you here, can you see that laser pointer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the EV service will send out a questionnaire on forms, so this will identify. Now, we did say that for any data collection where it involves names, parents should give consent.
Okay.
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 So it's a conversation to reassure the parent that you're giving the information but it's not committing anything. It's not
Yeah,
committing the child.
It's just saying
No,
we're having these discussions and then the applications will be the final numbers. This is just to give us an idea, because last year we ended up with so many come in, and there just wasn't space, and that's why they had to then take much longer over the process to then get new learning centres organised. So this year we're hoping if we get an idea of numbers earlier, we'll be better prepared for when the applications actually come in.
Great,
So,
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
It's huge. Parents become hugely anxious if a deadline that they've been given isn't met, because they can't move on with their own feelings and thinking and planning until that's confirmed. So that's why it's so stressful, and why giving dates that may not happen is also very stressful.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered everything we had planned to cover. So really, this is a chance if you want to ask questions that you've maybe thought of, or if you want to go away and think about questions, you can email them to us or anything, that's absolutely fine. But we'll also save this. What I'll do is I'll switch off the recording at this point so that you don't feel put on the spot. I think would probably be a good thing. And then people might feel more willing to ask questions.
Which